Thank you, everyone. I call the May 22nd, 2023 school board meeting to order. It is 6:03 p.m. We're in conference room C of the Fisher Administration Building at 12121 West North Avenue. Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Dr. Worley? Here. Mr. Morris?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Dr. Jessup Enger?
Here.
Dr. Hoyt?
Excused.
Ms. Emerald Rolland?
Here.
Ms. Willis? Here.
Thank you all. We begin this evening with public comment on non-agenda items. Members of the Wauwatosa School Board value the input of students, parents, staff members, and community members. The board's regularly scheduled meetings provide an opportunity for opinions and concerns to be expressed publicly. The board values all comments and will respectfully consider this input in decision making. The board requests that individuals limit their comment on each item to 3 minutes. Following any comment, an individual board member may respond on the issue raised. However, it is not the intent of public comment portion of the agenda for the board to enter into debate with a member or members of the community. Because non-agenda items are not publicly posted in advance, no action will be taken on public comment regarding non-agenda items this evening. Is there any public comment this evening?
Before I start, some children here. I'm going to talk about things that might not be appropriate for them. Nothing explicit, no words, but topics I wouldn't want to. Cool. Just want to make sure. Okay. So I came here tonight to pitch an idea, and I honestly find it hard to believe anyone here would feel or disagree with me. As many of you know, there are quite a few of us against the HGB curriculum. I propose a publicly subsidized system that I researched. I will provide all the data to the board later tonight. It's an education system that's the goal is to provide education by funding, finding salvation in God. We will involve local leaders, of course, and top clergy members. Because the Bible is timeless, norms are easily achieved. Children will be given a choice to learn about the Bible or not, but they'll be expected to follow rules. There will be corrected actions if rules are broken, nothing serious. Because the world is modern, salvation takes on a different meaning. New education proposals could flow through the clergy where they could approve or deny. This would give African American students a 10% chance of being able to read and do math proficiently in Wauwatosa. Now, is there anyone with a show of hands that could disagree with any of this? I can give it up. Nobody? So everyone thinks this is a good idea? No? Okay. Well, what I want to do is just switch up a few words, okay? I propose a system where the school board writes the rules with the goals of diversity and inclusion. The rules will be interpreted from the unwritten and civil laws of gender ideology. Children will be given a choice to learn or not about it in class, but they're expected to follow the rules. If you break them, you could be labeled for life in an outcast society until the day you die. Because the world of modern diversity and inclusion methods can be implemented by the clergy that's in front of us. With the goal, currently right now, that goal, Wauwatosa's Black African Americans have a 3% chance of doing math and reading proficiency here. See what I did there? My point was to prove that no amount of fact and the faith the board has. They have faith in gender ideology, diversity, and inclusion. Ms. Holt, who's not here, took 1 hour to dismiss 31 studies showing that trans people kill themselves more than those who are not. She also works for Children's Hospital. She's an unbiased professional. How can she dismiss 31 medically approved studies without any facts to review it? She's either getting paid or she has religion. She is the word of that God, from what I can tell. My money is on that her contract says something. No medical professional could do what she did unless she was paid off. Now, kids are really going through a mental health crisis. Let's give them the truth, not a happy snapshot. I'm going to next bring facts about John Money. He accidentally made the first trans.
30 seconds.
He had, as a girl, she would simulate sex acts with her brother that was reported. Then the girl detransitioned into a man, then killed himself. This is the first successful story of suicide. He thought unrestricted enjoyment of erotica and sex in childhood could encourage healthy sexual development in adulthood. That's the godfather of gender theory. So thank you very much. See you in 2 weeks.
Any additional public comment? Jamie?
Yes, we have 2 hands raised. Julie Alexander, you have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Okay.
Julie Alexander, 7224 West State Street, Unit 1A, Wauwatosa 53213. Two comments here. First off, I am hoping that the board and the school take a real concentrated look at curriculums in the light of people with special needs and special ed here. And we don't get reports on that necessarily when it's reported out by the people that were doing the study here. Second comment is, I was there, I listened to all of the discussion at the last meeting. And I kept on thinking to myself, we have had at least, I'm talking as a taxpayer, we've had at least 2 referendums in relation to the school district here. My thoughts are that it would be really nice if before something like that is truly discussed, basically that the school board go out or designate people to go out on their behalf and elicit comments and ideas from the community. Because I think that if we deal with another referendum here, we need to come up with something that the community will support here. I know that there's budget constraints here, but it would be nice to get some interaction from the community before a referendum is decided upon. Thank you very much.
What is 6?
No.
Okay, next is Kendra Kovar. You have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Kendra Kovar, 8th grade teacher at Whitman Middle School. Address is 2405 Merlin Way. First of all, I'd just like to welcome all the new members to the school board and welcome back all other members. The purpose for my comment is to encourage all members to visit individual buildings. Since the board makes major decisions that affect students in all buildings, I think it would be a priority to get a firsthand experience of the culture of each building, instead of just relying on filtered information presented at meetings. In my 17 years at Whitman, I recall 2 members visiting when the science labs were redone about 7 or 8 years ago, and I recall Mrs. Willis visiting this year to help at an ice cream social. I think it would be critical for them all to just personally experience, like I said, the culture of the buildings. I have personally encouraged other members to actually visit buildings that they're making major decisions for, and I actually had one member respond back to me saying that they would not want to intimidate anyone in the buildings, and I didn't really understand where that comment came from, because I personally would not be intimidated by anyone visiting, especially to get a firsthand experience, since they're here to support what we're doing. So board members, current and previous experience, please make it a priority to visit all of our buildings to get firsthand experiences of the culture of each building. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no more hands raised.
Thank you, Jamie. We will conclude our public comment with that last comment to start our meeting. We will next move into the consent agenda.
I think ask.
Oh, APSI. Thank you. So fun thing. We have some really outstanding students, both at East and West, that participate in APSI. And this last year, the East High School team attended nationals again in Washington, D.C. And we have some folks here to be recognized. I'm particularly excited about this as a parent of a child who is eagerly anticipating whether or not she got picked for APSI. So congratulations to the team. And I'm really excited a year from now to see this up close and personal, as I know how hard these students work at this. Dr. Means, I'll turn it over to you for any comments.
I only have a few comments. I know Ms. McGinnity is here, and I would like her to introduce our advisor, our faculty advisor, but we're proud of both of our APSI teams on both sides of town. And I know that the students at Wauwatosa West respect and admire the work that our young people at Tulsa East are also doing and vice versa. So I want to give Ms. McGinnity the floor. If there's anything you would want to add to share about the team at Wauwatosa East, that would be wonderful.
So we have,
Doesn't sound like it.
okay, cool.
Oh,
So Mr. Taylor McDaniel is here. He is our acting teacher. I had the honor of accompanying the team to Washington DC in April, and it was a phenomenal trip. It is an incredible group of young people who work so incredibly hard, and every time there we go. Okay. So Mr. Taylor McDaniel is here, and I will have him come up in a second. He is the teacher of APSI and the advisor. I had the honor of going to Washington, D.C. in April with the team. They have put in a bajillion hours to prepare for competition. They're an amazing group of people, very well-rounded students. And so it is exciting to honor them and their achievements. And all of our APSI alums will tell you that the experience has really prepared them for life after high school. And so it's exciting that we offer the opportunity, but we of course could not offer it without our outstanding educators. So Mr. Taylor McDaniel, I will have you come up and speak a little bit about your kids, and also so that you can receive some applause, because you have put in a lot of hours and dedication to this program. So thank you.
All right, so I think it speaks volumes that the fact that I'm the only one here, the students have so many other prior commitments that they could not make tonight's meeting, which speaks to like what they contribute to the school community, even in part of APSI. And Ms. McGinnity mentioned a bajillion hours. I would say it's probably a little bit of an understatement that they do a little bit more than a bajillion hours. I mean, these kids put in 2 to 3 nights a meeting with me per week for 2 hours, and then they have a plethora of hours on their own that they do the research for. I'm incredibly proud. We took 28th in the country. There was 48 teams that were just at nationals, but there was many, many more that didn't make nationals, many, many more that didn't make their state competitions. And to have the 28th most successful program in the country is an incredible honor for me. But it really isn't about me. It really is about the students, because they put in so much work, and I've shared my thoughts with them already, and that will kind of stay between, just this class. It was a tremendously rewarding class this year because we only had 14 students in the program, which we're going to have much more next year. And so it's interesting year by year, but 14 students is really a very small amount. You only can have a minimum of 12 students to actually run the class with the competition. And so that means that some students had to do twice as much work this year. And to still come out in the top 30 is really, really impressive. So it's really, really fun to run the class. I would encourage all of you, if you want to come to our competitions next year. We have the district competitions usually held at West. You can see it firsthand what these students do, what they know. We have attorneys that talk to them and say, you know more than I did when I graduated college. And it's just in a really, really impressive program. So it's an honor for me to be a part of it at Wauwatosa School District, because we're one of the few that run it in the state. But it's even more of an honor when I get to work with the kids, because they really are the kids who want to put in the best effort and want to learn, but also want to compete and win. So they're really a unique group of kids. So I appreciate you all listening and recognizing them and Wauwatosa East. And I got to give it to Wauwatosa West as well for their top 5 finish in the country. Also really successful with Mr. Matesky and all of his kids. So thank you for your time.
as a district, we're just very proud of both programs, and we just wanted to make sure that we provided as much fanfare and attention to the students who are putting in, is it bajillion? Bajillion, okay. That's a very, I'm sure Mr. Brightman knows from a CFO perspective that number, but the kids put a lot of work into it, and I want to thank Taylor as well, because it's one of those positions that as a teacher, you don't get a lot of recognition and credit for. I put it in the same category as being a theater director or a band director or the orchestra director. It's just, you're running a program. And when you're running a program that is it's different than just having another class. So thank you for what you do. There's a rumor that the students at Tulsa East have been motivated and encouraged by the national placement of the students at Tulsa West and have said, we can do that too. So I think that invitation to board members and community members to watch both Tulsa West and Tulsa East compete next year could be entertaining on a lot of different fronts. So thank you again for your work and your efforts, and please pass on our well wishes and thank you to your students.
Thank you very much. We will now move into the consent agenda. Are there any items in the consent agenda which board members would like to remove for separate discussion and action tonight? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
It is recommended that the school board approve the consent agenda, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Any board comment or discussion on the consent agenda? Any community comment on the consent agenda?
Good evening, Sharon Mufeld, 123 North 87th Street. And firstly, I just wanted to congratulate the ABSE teams of both high schools. It's wonderful to have you all recognizing them. Among the many topics on today's agenda, the consent agenda is important in an effort that I have been working on regarding safety and the external safety study. I wholly support that initiative. And I've also sent a proposal to Ms. Geisler and Mr. Pinion, which I'd like the board to be aware of. And that is an idea that came out of some work that I had done as a board member, but that we should possibly consider prohibiting parking at or across the street from our main school entrances, specifically starting with the elementary schools. So the administration has more detail, and I really look forward to helping and working and continuing the work with safety on behalf of the district as a community member. And then my final comment would be my gratitude for members of this board and administration, and just to thank you very much for your service, being on the other side. And I very much appreciate it. So if you need me for anything, I have some extra time. I'm willing to help.
Thank you, Ms. Mufeld. Any additional public comment? Jamie, anything online?
There are no hands raised.
Ms. Summers, please call the roll.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessup Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoyt, Ms. Armour Roland,
Yes.
Ms. Willen,
I'm going to
Willis?
abstain as I have a relative on the consent agenda.
Thank you. That motion passes. Next up, strategic goal 4, high quality staff. This is action. The first one is action to approve the 23-24 administrative contract of Dr. Stephen Plank as principal of Wauwatosa East High School. Dr. Worley.
It is recommended that the school board approve the 2023-24 administrative contract of Dr. Stephen Plank as principal of Wauwatosa East High School effective July 1, 2023 for 229 days per year at an annual salary of $156,000, and I so move.
Second. Didn't even have a chance to ask for that. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Ms. Zell's asking.
Good evening. The process that we use to go ahead and identify and recommend to you this evening a principal for Wauwatosa East has been thorough, well participated in by staff members, families, and students at East. We started back, you may remember, in the month of March, and we brought a slate of candidates in who based on the feedback from the interview teams, we did not feel comfortable moving forward. And so we reposted, retrenched, and brought back another slate at the beginning of this month. I think in all, we've had over 20 interviews to get to this point. And I am very pleased to go ahead and make the recommendation this evening related to Dr. Steve Plank and the East principal position.
Thank you. Any board questions or comments? I would comment that I am excited about this candidate. I know he brings a lot of experience. East is a place that really particularly values the fine arts and music, and I know he's got quite an extensive background in this, both as a teacher and as a director of the fine arts program, and certainly has an impressive resume. So congratulations to the East community and to the staff who spent a lot of time and work on running the search. So thank you. Any community comment on this item? Jamie, anything online?
No, there are no hands raised.
Please call the roll.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessa Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoy, Ms. Emma Roland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
We do have a message from Dr. Plank this evening as he was unable to attend.
Ooh.
That will help. I look forward to sharing with the board. Dr. Plank did send a video sharing his excitement and interest in being East's next principal. I will share that with the board a little bit later.
Thank you. Congratulations to Dr. Blank. Awesome. The next item is action to approve the 23-24 staffing plan. Jessica.
It is recommended that the school board approve the 2023-2024 staffing plan, and I so move.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Zelazowski.
I offer for students just to call me Mrs. Z. So I am very pleased again to recommend this evening approval of our 2022 or 23-24 staffing plan. At this point, it's a bit of a labor of love to go ahead and put together not just the allocations of our staff members, but I really feel like our staffing plan is moving us in the right direction towards our strategic plan to reflect our greatest areas of need and where our greatest allocations are of staff members. Working with all of our teams, working with principals in terms of making sure we're getting our staff members in the right places is always, and maybe I'm just weird being in HR, but it's an exciting process, but I really feel like it contributes to our student success. And so recommending that plan this evening, I'm looking forward to what we can offer and how we'll support our students in the coming year.
If I may just add an addendum to that statement, I think, and this is the former human resource director coming out at me, I think the word that comes to mind is transparency. It was interesting today, going into that document, I saw over 15 staff members also reviewing the staffing plan. And we haven't had that level of transparency where a staff member can see where they're assigned or their colleagues are assigned in many years. I think in the past, the board has received more of a general distribution of how many FTEs we have, but to have the specific FTEs and where it's assigned. I know a major issue when Ms. Zelazowski came in was concerning our middle school specialists and how much assignment they had. Now they can see. So I think it's important for staff to see it. I think it's important for the community to see it. And we often say it, but it cannot be said enough. Our personnel, just from a fiscal standpoint, is 75% of our overall budget. So that's a significant investment that I believe we have to do a better job in accounting for. I think the work between, not to get too deep in the weeds, but our financial system is something called Skyward. Now we're lucky to have Skyward. Skyward is located, I think it's in Stevens Point. So the headquarters is right in Stevens Point. But that software system is the main system that our business department uses to account for paying checks and compensating people. And all year this year, Ms. Zolozowski and our director of finance and Mr. Brightman, our CFO, they have had to work all year just to make sure that our staffing plan aligns with what's in Skyward. Now, on the surface, you may say, well, of course, the two speak to one another, but that up until this year, that was not the case. And so I think that's another advantage that you will now have as an organization and as a community as it pertains to the staffing plan.
May I add one more thing? The staffing plan was accurate as of Friday afternoon when it was uploaded and has already changed. So please know that this is really a living document that we will continue to go ahead and update. One of the benefits of the transparency of staff members being able to see the information that is normally kept in our employee management system is that today I got a couple of emails from staff members saying, hey, I don't think my years of service are correct. Can you go ahead and look into that? That's exactly the kind of thing we want to be doing to make sure that that system is as accurate as possible. So thank you to those staff members who reached out. And again, just for our Board of Education, please know that that document must live as we are adjusting and making what we believe to be the best changes for our students in terms of our staffing.
Board questions and comments on the staffing plan?
Just thank you for all this work. I mean, I know it was a big undertaking, but it is so great just to have the transparency to see where, in which ways we're supporting our schools based on their needs, and to see, you know, even the numbers that some of our teachers have as far as the student count. I mean, it's just such a great document. If you would you, I know there was a comment made at the last meeting about the Next Steps program and the one FTE that was allocated for the physical therapist. Could you just provide some clarity around that?
Absolutely. In talking with our Director of Special Education, Stacy Clem, one of the pieces that we are continuing to clean up in the employee management system is the location by which some of our district-wide staff members are allocated. So we do have speech and language support in our Next Steps program. And we also have some district-wide speech and language support that's allocated. So it's a matter of correcting the FTE allocation for what is supported for Next Steps, and then what is supposed to support district-wide efforts relating to speech and language services.
We don't actually know those numbers, right, until we have our students who have individual education plans, right? So it's hard to allocate the FTE. Again, why it needs to be a living document, because those numbers will change as our caseload changes from school to school.
They sure will.
Yeah. Thank you.
Seeing no other board comments or questions, any community comments or questions on this item before a vote? Jamie, anything online?
Yeah, we have a couple of hands raised. Kendra Kovar, you have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
I appreciate the transparency and being able to see this early. And I'm Kendra Kovar, 8th grade teacher, Whitman Middle School. But I noticed my name's not on the staff plan, and I have not resigned. So I'm just wondering how that was overlooked. Not that I expect an answer right now, but my name is not on the staffing plan for Whitman. Nor have I received any notification that I was not being renewed.
So teacher makes an oversight that we will correct.
Thank you.
That's transparency.
Next is Deb Falk Palak. Wait, sorry. Deb Falk Palak, you have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Deb Falk Palak. I actually had a panic moment today after listening to Ms. Kovar's comment, because I did not see one of our very loved staff members on the staffing plan today as I looked at it either. But anyway, I do have a comment yet about the Next Steps program. I know, Ms. Willis, you asked about PT, and Ms. Olazowski was talking about speech therapy. But in the May 8th document that was shared out with the community, it showed on there, and I was the person that thanked whoever really was listening to the community over the last couple of years about adding PT services but on the May 8th document, there was OT on there. And now the document in front of the board tonight for approval, OT has been eliminated. So there's, I'm questioning that. I'm really hoping somebody on the board can ask about that to make that make sense. We're, pretty close to the end of the year. This is a program just for students with disabilities. So there is knowledge about who needs what, and really how OT works in there is a little bit differently than what you might see in a K-12 IEP plan. So I'm really hoping that somebody can address or ask the question about why was OT in next steps on May 8th, and then it was removed in what is being presented to the board today and to the community. Thank you.
Okay, next is Melissa.
Jamie, before you go to the next speaker, Mr. Pinion would like to speak.
I'd just like to give voice to Mrs. Falk-Palik's comment. And really, we would not be removing any type of related service from any student. Really, that is dictated through the IEP. So there are related services that are outlined, and then we are required to provide those, whether those be speech and language pathology minutes, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and the like. So know that that allocation of any related services provided to Next Steps or any school is really driven by each individual student's IEP and what that dictates.
May I ask a follow-up question? Is there a reason that some of those live under Next Steps, like some of those positions, rather than somewhere else on the document? I mean, because I understand how related services work, but I wonder if maybe for clarification's sake, we have a separate tab with related services, knowing that those are going to service whoever has an IEP in our district, right? Whether it's the early program that we have in Tosatart or, all the way up into our transition program.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So those adjustments in FTE allocations for things like related services or you brought up another great point, as well as related to our TOTS program and how we provide services for those early learners. Those FTE allocations are changing very regularly. And so Stacy Clem is an incredible leader of our special education program. And really what is the result is that as those allocations change, she's updating those really regularly. I tried to capture the most up-to-date allocations related to those, speech, OT, PT. And in the most recent version, there wasn't like an FTE allocated, but to Mr. Pinion's point, it does not mean that services aren't being provided. It's just looking at how the FTE is allocated.
Thank you.
Would you like to move on to the next speaker?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Melissa, you have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Melissa Kavanaugh, 12021 West Chambers Street. Thank you very much. I appreciate, as a parent, as a taxpayer, seeing the staffing report come out today and in its full transparency. I do want to bring again to your attention the items under Eisenhower. We have 14 vacancies in Eisenhower staffing. And as I commented at the last board meeting, this is an unbelievable, unprecedented amount of vacancies for our school. In comparison, McKinley has 2 vacancies. Eisenhower has 14 vacancies. And this is due to the uptick in aggressive behaviors and non-support from district administration for our staff and teachers. I, again, just like Ms. Kovar had stated, I really urge you to come and take a look at our school, come and take a look at what new plans we can put into place to support our teachers better. And, the more support our teachers get, the better they can do for their students. And right now, they are not able to reach all of their students due to these behaviors. It is just such a pressing issue that I think everyone needs to start paying attention to and making some decisions. because we are losing more than half of our staff. And these are dedicated, phenomenal teachers that we are losing. 14 people. Thank you.
Dr. Joseph Banger. I would be remiss if I didn't share that we have sent, over the last 2 to 3 weeks, we have sent much more staffing over to Eisenhower. Just this week and today, we have hired a special education substitute teacher to help. We've moved the administrative assistant who has a background in training in social work to be another set of hands to assist. That's in addition to some of the other personnel that we've sent over from the district office. I would respectfully say that we have sent resources to Eisenhower. I think with any school, there's ebb and flows, and there have been some students who have challenges in that building. Not only are we sending more resources, but we're also helping staff members who are assigned to those students to have different skill sets and capacities and strategies to address those students. So I would just say for any parent at Eisenhower who have more questions around what's being done for the remainder of the school year, to speak to the principal. She can speak to the resources that have been deployed, but I would just, I've spent a lot of time at Eisenhower. I know a lot of our district team has as well. Jamie, we're clear.
Roger. Next is Julie. You have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Julie Love, and my address is 2250 North 117th Street. And I have had the pleasure of subbing in the district for about the last half year. And I just wanted to piggyback on the previous statements regarding Eisenhower. I have been in the building and have seen those behaviors as well, and I have quite a bit of concern. And I would also piggyback off of the 8th grade teacher from Whitman who indicated that she would like the board members to come in and visit. I would encourage parents to come in and visit, because as a parent of a student, a middle school student, I have had the opportunity to see the classroom through 2 different eyes. One as a sub teacher and one as a parent. And I just have a hard time believing that parents aren't concerned about what they're seeing in the classrooms, and they aren't taking action and voicing their opinion and their concerns. So I would encourage the board members to come in periodically, unannounced, at different times of the day, and to actually go into the classrooms that are of concern. I know there was a couple of comments that the staff or the board members were not spending time in the classrooms that were actually the classrooms of concern. And also to make certain that their visits are unannounced and that they're going at different times of the day. I would also encourage parents, unfortunately, I don't think I'm reaching the parents tonight on the broadcast that really need to come in and see, but I would encourage parents to come in and get involved. Thank you.
Dr. Joseph Banger, may I make a request of Mr. Pinion and his team? I know that you're presenting data to the school board in August, and it's to provide a disciplinary data update from February. But I would appreciate it if we can also, and I'm saying this publicly for a reason, if we can also just provide the board and the community an update on how do we handle difficult children and how do we handle the challenges that they bring to the classroom, and what is inclusion and what does inclusion look like, and when does inclusion maybe not work for all students. I think we need to just have a grounding for the board, for the community, in regards to what does that look like. I would conclude by saying we never tolerate poor behavior from any student, regardless of their status. We should not make students, you shouldn't place them in a position where their safety or staff member safety is at risk. But at the same time, there's a balancing act that we have with some of our students in the support that we have to provide them in an inclusive environment as well. And so how we balance it, how we ground ourselves, how we discuss those things, how we provide and build the capacity of staff members who are charged with providing that very difficult balance of services. I believe it would be beneficial for the board to hear from you and your team on what are those expectations in our school system.
Yes, absolutely. I think it would be great to make visible a lot of the work that often isn't seen firsthand.
Thank you.
There are no more hands raised.
Any other board comments or questions? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessup Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoig, Ms. Hammer Roland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
And that item passes. Next up is action to approve additional enhancements to the teacher compensation system.
It is recommended that the school board approve the additional enhancements to the teacher compensation system, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
I'll give that to Ms. Willis. With a close second to Dr. Worley. Sarah, do you want to reset us here?
So now I'm going to go ahead and show you the slide that we previewed earlier. At our last conversation, Dr. Jessup Anger, I believe you were the individual who asked for some data related to if we make this investment.
Ms. Zalazowski, if you could share your screen, please, so we can see it in the Zoom meeting.
Very, very much. Thank you, Jamie.
That's good. Thank you.
So you'd ask for some data related to how would we compare to other school districts. One of the pieces of information that we shared, I think when we first started talking about teacher salaries this winter, was a comparison of Wauwatosa total compensation to other schools in season one. And we were in I think the bottom third or third from the bottom. What I was been able to gather since last we talked was a comparison of Wauwatosa to 11 of our local school districts. I reached out to my HR peers in local school districts and asked them to share with me what their average teacher salaries were, as well as then what their along with that average teacher salary, what was the total compensation package that went along with that average teacher salary? So like health insurance, life insurance, retirement, those types of things. So what I have for you this evening is current, what we have right now as far as average teacher salaries, the median across these 11 local school districts, as well as where Wauwatosa stands. So the median average salary across Wauwatosa and 11 other school districts is $66,109. Right now in Wauwatosa, the average salary is $59,589. We get a little bit closer in terms of the median when you look at average total compensation, again, with all of the benefits that we provide for employees, and you can see what the comparisons are. I then went ahead and projected salary and compensation for next year based on our proposal. And you see a note on the bottom that says that included the 12% increase for Wauwatosa teachers. I compared that to the kind of the prevailing 4% that most other local school districts are talking about as increases. And then I increased benefits for all districts by 2%, again, to go ahead and have some level playing field. And so in doing that comparison, we would be just a hair's breadth below the median average salary at $67,000 and change. And we would be above the median total compensation, again, with this sampling of Milwaukee area school districts as comparison.
Thank you.
Dr. Jesser Anger, board members. The only thing I would add is that I know there's been a lot of discussion around how do we reconcile the years of service variant and how that's not being addressed with this proposal. Let me state that I have found it to be an honor to work with the Wauwatosa Education Association. They are consistent, conscientious professionals who have come to this conversation on how we can better the work environment for their colleagues in a way that has not been inappropriate. In fact, it's been very understated. I think they've been very reasonable with us. And so I want to thank them publicly. We wish administratively we could do it all. And it's been difficult since I've arrived here to try to navigate the continuous improvement work that you've given me the charge to do, to close achievement gaps, to address disproportionality, to address difficult children in elementary schools and how we work with those students. That work has been nearly impossible to do because we have staff members who have felt the years of disrespect, the years of the fact that they have never even had the ability to share an opinion with the district in terms of what compensation should look like. The work that you've asked us to do, the work that you have told me privately and in some ways publicly, in terms of your support of the strategic plan, that's been hard to accomplish. So I want to state clearly for staff members who want us to do all the different things that they would like us to do, you need to hear from me, your superintendent, that I agree with you. But there's also fiscal realities that we have to live with. And that the fiscal reality is that if we implemented the plan that's before you this evening and implemented the years of service variant, we would bring our cash position of our fund balance dangerously close to a 15% threshold. Ideally, auditors want us to stay within that 15 to 20% threshold. I would prefer to stay in the 20% threshold for our cash position. And so getting down to 15% would just be too much. So that's why we're not doing it all. But please know we would desire that if we could for the staff. We are hoping that we can turn a page this evening because I can speak for my colleagues. We feel like we are continuously fighting some of the ghost of administration's past, of how things were not addressed. And I hope that our words have demonstrated our commitment to the staff and not just talking, but we've actually put some things in action. My bigger concern, and I'm saying this for Dr. Hoy, who isn't here, but I know she has a statement that she would like to have read in the record, and for Ms. Willis, the Legislative Advocacy Committee will continue to have to work on this issue because what we're seeing is that our ability to wait on the state legislature to give us the resources necessary to compensate our educators isn't going to come. We haven't seen that now for over a decade, and I'm not confident that that's going to happen anytime soon. School districts who differentiate themselves, they look inward. They do what we're doing tonight to find a way to recognize the educators and to make sure that they stay in our district. The last thing I would say is that we have more work to do administratively. In talking with our colleagues from the WEA, who's the official group that we work with, we know that pay isn't the only thing. Pay is not the only thing that's going to keep a staff member in a school system. So there are other things that we're working on. I think the staffing plan that you approved this evening has very low class sizes. And I think that's a factor to people staying in a school system. I think recognizing the professionalism of educators through how they use their days off is a way to recognize educators, paying them for committees that they serve on are other ways. I think we are committed to continuing to talk about other things other than compensation, because it's not 100% compensation. But when you look at the state of affairs in this district, it may not be 100%, but it was a high percentage. And we have some work to do, and we're hoping that you will approve our recommendation this evening. Thank you for listening.
More questions and comments on this item?
Our teachers, this is my opinion, our teachers need more pay. Our teachers deserve more pay. I want our teachers to have more pay. I support going to referendum to be sure we have the funds to provide them with more pay. That said, we do not know what the state legislature will do for the budget. We do not yet know what our enrollment will be in September, which in part drives our funding. So I am not ready to vote yes on this with those unknowns. I would prefer we have identified with more certainty the source of our funds to pay these raises. Thank you.
I think we all know that we're underpaying our teachers, and I think that Mr. Brightman and Dr. Means have done a really good job actually saying that we do have the money to pay for these, at least for the next 2 years. I think we're never going to know what the state legislature is going to do. We're never going to have 100% accuracy in our enrollment count. So I think we need to do today what's needed to keep our highly qualified, I would say overeducated staff that we have in this district. I received probably 100 emails in the last week and a half in support of this proposal. A lot of them were from teachers, and when they run through their resumes in those interviews, we are beyond lucky to have them in our district. I would say we're beyond lucky that they've kind of stuck with us through some ebbs and flows of our salary. I am one of the board members who have emailed relentlessly to see what we can do for the veteran teachers. I think Dr. Means explained it perfectly. This is a good first step to get our teachers and staff where they need to be. I personally will keep fighting for more for our staff. It just depends on where we move the funds from or if we get additional funds. But I think if we don't pass this today, we're going to have an exodus of highly qualified, amazing teachers in our district, and that's what makes our schools amazing. So I hope all of my colleagues are planning on voting yes on this tonight.
I want to read a statement that seems like the appropriate time from Dr. Hoig, and I will just read it as written. I'm disappointed that a family emergency has kept me from tonight's board meeting. In lieu of my participation, I have asked our board president to read a statement on my behalf. I am in support of the salary proposal before us tonight. Over the past 2 weeks, I have received countless emails and had many conversations related to the proposed salary increase. There's been universal support for the proposal with the recognition that competitive compensation is a key component of staff retention. For too many years, our legislature has underfunded public schools. Our school district prioritized our bond rating and cash balance over paying teachers and staff a fair salary. It has created a breach in the trust between staff and administrators, has led to poor morale, and has more recently meant that our staff retention is far below our desired goal. Should this proposal be passed, I'm hopeful that teachers and staff will have renewed trust in the current board and administration and consider this an opportunity to build a collaborative relationship. This means that the conversation around staff retention is beginning, not ending. I'm aware, for example, that many of our most veteran teachers have stayed loyal to our district and community despite not feeling valued. This must be remedied as quickly as possible. It's abhorrent that we have teachers classified 8 or 10 steps below their years of service. Our veteran teachers deserve better. We similarly have much to do to improve the salary for our educational assistants. Despite my support, my concerns about the financial impact of this proposal remain. I'm worried that the state will not meet the very reasonable funding request advocated for by this board. Should that be the case, I'm hopeful that the overwhelming community support that we have received for this proposal will not be lost. We are likely to have some difficult decisions ahead of us. I believe that our community has a vision of excellence for the Wauwatosa School District. Support for this proposal is essential to seeing this vision to fruition. Dr. Worley.
So I will also add that the community comment that I received was overwhelmingly in support. Did raise the question about where teachers are placed when they've been in the district a long time, and there have been a number of challenges over the last couple of maybe decade of how salaries are adjusted, and also some questions that were raised around the opportunity and the process for asking about that and finding out more about their own individual salaries. But I will say that those emails also expressed overwhelmingly support for passing this, even though individually they might not be where they hope to be or want to be, but that the support was very strong for the overall package, particularly because of the community recognition, or the recognition of those who contacted me, that this is a critical moment for our district to make strides towards the goals that we have set of where we want to be and where we want to be going, and who we want to be working with, the staff we want to retain. I think even the comments earlier tonight about concerns about vacancies that we see in the staffing report, all of that is wrapped into making a strong decision tonight towards supporting teacher salaries. And I think that with respect for the expertise of those who gathered this proposal, both within the administration, but also with the teachers union, really makes it a strong proposal that I think is important as a board we support and move forward on.
Thank you. Who else?
Thank you. Clearly we received a lot of feedback from educators in our district. And I think it was a little disheartening to hear how some of them have been so loyal to our district, but not compensated fairly, but still are in it for the right reasons. And I think this is a step in the right direction. I think we do have some rectifying to do as far as the variance of years in service. But I'd also like to add that I think that this new kind of administration, this new board, the community, we have high expectations for our teachers. And I think we've made that clear in ways through our strategic plan. And as we start to kind of tackle these issues around what our teachers need and supporting them, I think this is a great first step. But I also think that we need to think, comprehensively and offer them the professional development and the opportunities that they need to really equip their toolbox with the tools that they need to meet the needs, the changing needs of our kids. So, we hear about it with these instances at Eisenhower. And we, if we're going to hold our teachers to high expectations, then we need to support them adequately. And I think this is a step in the right direction, but I think we need to continue this conversation and what are our expectations for our teachers and how do we continue to support them? Thank you.
Thank you. So there's not a lot I can say that hasn't already been said, except as a student. And as a student who has watched the teachers at East struggle through COVID and the behavioral symptoms thereof, I feel like not just me, not just any other of the representatives here, but the entire student body would be entirely in favor of this passing. You should call for a vote. Well, I don't get a vote, but thank you. I think it's noteworthy that even if there are financial troubles that come with it, I think that those troubles need to be had to give respect to the staff of all the high schools and all the schools in general.
I like one more piece in here. I think it's important to think about, and I think Liz and Jessica said it properly, our expectations and standards are very high for the community as well as for our district. And we can't walk around expecting to have Dollar Tree and Dollar General level teachers and expect them to be able to go out and not only live and shop on a Kohl's or Neiman Marcus budget. So we have to be able to look at what we do now is going to really have an impact on what our community looks like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And so the kids that are in elementary are going to feel the effects of the decisions that we make now. They're going to feel that in middle school. They're going to feel that in high school if we don't make the solid decisions that we can. And so I think as we look at those things, are we going to solve all the problems? I think Dr. Means, you just hit it on there. It's a step. It's a first line in the conversation of how we get there. The financial parts and the financial pieces that come with it, everybody's running from the words referendum. These are realities, things that have to go into place. I'm not for or against it here today because there's a lot more data that has to go with it. I'm optimistic that something may happen, may not happen too. And I think that Mr. Brightman said that something may happen, but it might not be what we want. It could be less, it could be nothing. We don't know that right now. But what we do know is that, and even to Mr. Meyer's points before, we don't want to wait till it's too late. And we don't want to sit back and say, we should have done this, and we're reactionary because now we don't have something in place. And so for the teachers that have left the profession, and the issues that come around that, I think it's a lot more complex than just compensation. We all know that. And so while inadequate compensation is one of the top contributing factors, I think we all have to continuously be aware of that, those other challenges that we face on a daily basis. Our students talked about post-COVID and the behavioral things and those natures. There's gonna be a lot of things that come with that. And we're gonna have a lot more findings as we get back into this road to normalcy of where our teachers exist today, not pre-COVID, not yesteryear. And the things that we're going to learn for our teachers 2, 3, 4, and 10 years down the road. And so as long as we're looking at those things, we're going to be accomplishing, hopefully with this board and all future boards, accomplishing the things that are going to lessen the need for teacher resignations. To our parents, everybody that's listening out there, those Eisenhower families especially, if we don't take care of the teachers, they can't take care of the students. And so we're going to end up with problems, not only at Eisenhower, but those things will trickle down. Those things will spread to the other parts of the community because people will jump ship and they may move from that community to the other part of the zip code because they're going to run from it. But we can't escape them if we don't solve those problems and start with basic things that we can have control of here today, like the compensation. So I'm in favor of it. And I think there's a lot of things that we're going to learn. And there's going to be data and there's going to be a lot of information that comes forward that are going to help support these things. But I also think we live in a community that's changing and transforming in front of us for the better. When we look at our real estate values, when we look at the things that are being developed in here, these are things that support a better community with a higher quality and a higher standard school district.
Thank you. Couple comments on this. Dr. Means and I talked months ago about how do we go faster? And how do we push harder and quicker? Really good work was done last year on developing the system and process. And I'm really glad to see this proposal. I think I want to know, what are the board goals that we have? And we haven't adopted it officially. The last board kind of developed it, and this board will choose to adopt it or amend it or not, is how do we retain 90% of highly effective educators in the district? I think salary is one of those things. I think what we can do to make sure that, as Ms. Willis said, professional development is there, that teachers have the supports in place, that it's a culture of excellence in pedagogy, in instruction, a culture of excellence in student learning. I don't know what all those things are, but I will keep asking the administration to bring those forward and to do that in collaboration with the educators across the district. So I'm really proud to support this tonight. I want us to go faster. I recognize we're on a precipice right now of a legislature who's thinking about doing something, and would really encourage the community at this moment to find ways to reach out, to advocate, to work with legislators to advocate for public education and to put money towards some of these supports, to support mental health issues, support teacher compensation, support school safety. I think these are really central. And so I'm happy to support this evening. I think it is, as my colleagues have said, one step along the way. And I'm glad to see that we'll be over median. I would love to see us up in the top quartile. Bless you. And we'll keep pushing to see until we get there. I recognize that we're not there yet, but hope to see soon that we will be. I want to take, if there's no more board comment or question right now, turn to community comment on this item. Okay. Folks, we'll take folks in the room.
Carmela Rios, 1934 Forest Street. I was up here in early March advocating for an increase in teacher pay, and I'm so happy to be here, not that long after hearing this proposal. And I want to thank the administration. I want to thank Dr. Means. I want to thank Ms. Zolozowski and Dr. Jessup Anger, I know was a part of this as well. I pointed there, but you're right there in front of me. This is great. And I also want to thank you for working with the WEA, because just because unions no longer have bargaining rights in our state does not mean we should not have them at the table to advocate for our teachers. And that's a really important component of moving forward and having teachers trust administration as well. So this is one step. I know it's not the only step. We have to look at class size, workload, professional development, all of those, but this is a really important step. So thank you all.
Hi, my name is Alicia Bartz. I'm at 1421 North 69th Street. Like Dr. Rios, I stood in this spot on March 6th and asked you to approve the proposed compensation adjustments before you, and I asked you to direct the administration to keep bringing you more proposals to approve until our teacher pay scale is competitive with our neighbor districts and a true articulation of our community values. So I'm happy to be back here so quickly and to hear that so many of you are in support of this 12% teacher salary increase. I don't fully understand how our teacher salaries sank to the bottom quartile of teacher pay in the southeastern Wisconsin in our recent past, but this is not a problem that we can continue to admire. We need courageous leadership to put our money where our mouth is and get in the fight for the best teachers in the area. Otherwise, let's admit that we don't want to be in the ranks with Muskego and Shorewood and Elmbrook and stop invoking those districts as comparisons in this boardroom. The cost of writing past decisions on teacher pay is big, but the opportunity cost is big too. You have to weigh the potential benefits that our district loses and our students lose if you choose not to take action on teacher pay while other districts around us do. I recognize that this proposal comes to you amid unknowns and uncertainty. You don't know what enrollment's going to be in the fall. You don't know if state legislature will meet its constitutional obligation to provide adequate funding for our schools. But you can shape the future of our district by controlling the things that you can control in alignment with our community values. From my vantage point, our teachers are the only sure bet right now. Please take the calculated risk and double down on our teachers. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm David Keach. I'm a teacher at West High School. Also a member of the WEA team that's worked diligently and productively with Dr. Means and Ms. Zelazowski, which we're very appreciative of. I don't know that I can say anything more eloquently than has already been brought up. The concerns for years that teachers had with feeling undervalued, taken for granted. This salary increase combined with the new salary structure, which we implemented this year, are directly addressing those issues. It's not a perfect solution. There is no perfect solution, but we feel very strongly that it's going to provide the greatest good for the greatest number of people, that it is a great deal for our teachers. And so we have a mutual goal. We want to retain, attract the highest quality staff, and measures like this are essential steps to make that happen. So I just wanted to encourage your support.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Genevieve Berg. I'm a teacher at Lincoln, and I'm also the Secretary Treasurer of the Wauwatosa Education Association. I speak in favor of the salary increase. Last year, WEA and the district worked together to create a new predictable salary system. This proposal tonight continues that work. An investment in our teachers is an investment in our students, schools, and community. If this proposal passes, it shows that the Wauwatosa School District is committed to attracting, but more importantly, retaining the high-quality educators who are dedicated to providing students with the best education possible. Thank you.
Hi, Erin Salerno, teacher at East. I want to thank you all for your consideration of the proposal put forth by both the negotiating team and the district admin for next year's compensation. I very much appreciate the level of cooperation that we've shared this year. I believe in the plan that has been put forth tonight, and I hope that you will pass it. I believe that passing the 12% raise will help improve teacher satisfaction and retention, and I very much worry about what will happen to teacher retention in this district if it doesn't. I've heard today that this is a first step, but it's really a second. The first was a predictable salary ladder. The fact that we are, year 2, starting to address concerns about that ladder makes this a continuing step. We still have more work to do, especially around fixing placement in the ladder for veterans, but this is another large step forward with more to come. I believe in this plan and the following ways that we are going to continue to improve compensation in the district. Thank you for your consideration.
My kids are in the bathroom. Hi, I'm Heather Burke. I am a parent of 3 in the district. This was an important enough topic for me to come down here and bring 2 of my kids with me. First, I want to thank Dr. Means for working with WEA. Collective bargaining supports my family, and it allows us to live in this community. Teachers have been doing more than teaching curriculum for a long time. And long before COVID, it's been decades that they have been doing this. And they have done a really phenomenal job of holding it together so that it hasn't been apparent. But when COVID hit, I don't think a lot of people in the community understand what our teachers did. They completely reinvented teaching for our kids. And so while we were worried about setting up our own home offices or finding childcare or hoarding toilet paper, they were showing up for our kids. They were shopping over the weekend. They were packing their classrooms up. I spent 10 hours in a school building in my last district helping teachers pack up their building the day before everything shut down. They showed up online. They showed up on playgrounds, on front lawns, in driveways for our kids while taking care of their own families. And then after all of that, they were expected to submit a portfolio to prove that they were worth a raise for doing all of that. I know there's risks in this. It is completely reckless when you see a problem and you have at least part of an answer and you can do something to at least start addressing it. It is reckless to not do it. At the end of the day, we all put our money into what we value. And I hope everyone here and in the community is willing to start moving forward and valuing our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie, I don't think we have anybody else in the room that's going to be speaking. Anybody online?
Yes, Laura Ryan, you have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Hi, Laura Ryan, 309 North 69th Street. Just wanted to voice my approval of this plan. And as I was listening to the meeting, my son asked, why do you listen to these, or why do you go to those meetings sometimes? It seems so boring. And I said, well, I'm vested in our community, and I believe that our schools are what make our community strong, and they make our property values strong. And that can't happen unless we have amazing teachers, and we need to keep the ones that we have. So thank you to all you teachers, and I hope you approve this plan tonight.
Thank you.
Deb Falk-Palak, you have the microphone. Hold on. You have the microphone. Please state your name and address.
Thank you. Hi, Deb Falk-Palak. I think this plan only addresses the teachers, and somebody can shake their head yes or no if I'm wrong on this. But does it also include our extremely valuable educational assistants that help our children in the rooms? You know, we heard from, I didn't realize all the problems over at Eisenhower, but the people that were talking about that and the behavioral issues, et cetera. Some of those assistants, many of those assistants, this is part of what they're doing. And without them, teachers can't teach and do the jobs that they need to do. So I'm thinking that maybe the educational assistants aren't involved in this proposal for tonight. So I ask, When will they be? When will that be addressed? The other thing, we were talking about transparency, and this was brought up by a board member last meeting. Can somebody let the community know what percentage of our staff are actually in the WEA? That would be helpful information to know. And I know a board member brought that up on May 8th. And so that would be a wonderfully transparent thing to share out. With the exit surveys and exit interviews, I know that was brought up too. When will that start to get done and shared out to the board? And I encourage the board, the administration to go and look at the April 2022. It's linked in the school board meeting from the special ed audit. The staff survey was done. There's excellent data in there. And what have we done with that data from the staff, both the special education teachers, the aides, the regular teachers that answered that? Because if we're not doing quality work with exit surveys and analyzing that data, we won't get to some of the other issues. So I'm asking the board to step up and to ask for that information, put it on your agenda so that there's a date so that can be shared with the community. Thank you so much.
Dr. Jessebanger. Yes, board members. I'll take two of the three questions that I heard. The first is regarding membership in the WEA. I don't know what percentage of our teachers belong to the Wauwatosa Education Association, and candidly, I don't ask. It's not my role or position to ask. I do know that the Wauwatosa Education Association is the official organization that represents teachers in this district. I've seen them do things that are above and beyond what professionals do. I've worked with associations that would say, if you're not a dues paying member, we're not going to help you. And that's not what this association does. But administratively, we haven't asked what percent. I know there's some administrators would ask their association, well, what percentage of the teachers actually pay dues? My personal philosophy and values is that that's not fair to the association. They exist and they are the voice. I think, Dr. Worley, you spoke to it earlier. We've been working very hard to break a culture that was perpetuated here years ago, where teachers felt that they had to come in and advocate for themselves one-on-one. It was startling to me when I arrived, and teachers would tell me, well, we were told that that's the way you get compensated here. You have to be aggressive and meet with the superintendent. And I have held strong, and I have talked to Ms. Zelazowski. That's not how we want to operate. We know that the WEA is here. They're fair. They're tough. I don't want to give you the impression that cooperation is all butterflies and rainbows. They drive a difficult bargain, and we sometimes at meetings may not agree, but we are committed to coming back and continuing to listen. And I think that's the definition of cooperation. So that's the first question. The second question was around the issue of our educational assistants, and I'll let Ms. Zelazowski take that one.
Thank you very much. Many board members recall that in the months of February and March, we brought forward a proposal to go ahead and increase support staff compensation in the organization. As part of the data that we referred to, we looked at some of our fill rates. We looked at comparison compensation in other districts for positions like administrative assistant, educational assistant, including special education, as well as our buildings and grounds positions in the organization. At the meeting in March, the board did approve the compensation proposal we brought forward, which not only increased starting rates, but also addressed the inconsistency we had in those schedules related to steps once individuals were hired. So now for each of those groups, we have a 6-step salary schedule with competitive starting rates across all of them. And so that will be put into effect as of July 1 of the school year based on your approval.
So in essence, we haven't forgotten about our educational assistants. In fact, we addressed that back in March. the last topic that was brought up by the speaker was around the issue of exit surveys. Best practice in human resources will tell you that you cannot make decisions organizationally simply on exit interview surveys. And I remember vividly last year, we talked about the fact that we need to get tighter and better at looking at stay interviews and asking people, why do you stay in the organization? And what can we do to better, how can we better the work experience for an employee? And that's all employees. So I think sometimes exit surveys can be weaponized, and especially in a public sector employee relationship like a school district. So I would just caution us that as there are calls for exit surveys, that we are working diligently to create as much value to our stay interviews. Candidly, I would have more credence and value in why are people deciding to stay? And the feedback, candidly, that we received is the people who decided to stay drove the proposal that's in front of you tonight. It wasn't the exit survey data. It was the people who said, I'm staying here. I believe in Wauwatosa, but hear us, believe in us, and make sure that you value us. And so I would just caution community members, board members, as people make a call for exit surveys, that you make a call for us to work as hard to have stay interviews and to have constant pulse surveys on how can we continue to better the work environment for people who have decided that they're going to stay in Wauwatosa. Those are the three items that I heard the speaker address, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't let the evening pass without addressing. Thank you, sir.
Jamie, I believe that's it for online comments.
Yep, no more hands raised.
Any other final comments or questions from the board before taking a roll call vote? Seeing none. Ms. Summers?
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
No.
Dr. Jessup Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoig, Ms. Harmel Rolland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
And that item passes. But wait, Dr. Worley is about to be appointed to a committee. Don't leave.
I think they put their time in.
Thank you all for your collaboration and work on this. I see a lot of my children's current and future and past educators, so thank you all. We are moving now into board governance. Our first item here is action to approve the appointment of Dr. Lynn Worley to the Finance and Resource Committee. Mr. Morris, can you read this one?
I have it. It is recommended that the school board approve the appointment of Dr. Lynn Worley to the Finance and Resource Committee, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that to Mr. Morris. Any public or any board comment or questions on this item? Ms. Wilson.
So is Dr. Worley moving then away from the policy committee to do the work on the Finance and Resource Committee?
She is a giver. She has agreed to do both of these committees.
Well, thank you.
We discussed this evening, we had an orientation, Ms. Willis, for the policy committee. They are going to focus on the 6,000 series, the 7,000 series, and 8,000 series. If I remember correctly, that's finance, operations, and I can't remember what the third one, I can tell you. It is property, thank you, sir. So finance, property, and operations. So the policy committee believe that they can reduce their meeting time to once a month, and they'll try to do it on the front end of the fourth Monday or the second board meeting of the month.
Sure.
So that's going to be a different pace and cadence than previous policy committee had, and I think that may help in Dr. Worley's balancing of the two committees. I think it's important to note that we did get legal counsel on if a board member of one can be a committee. We were told that a one-person committee can be a committee, but Dr. Worley has expressed interested in doing this work. And as we've discussed this evening, it seems that in conjunction with Legislative Advocacy Committee, this is going to be a place of action and focus for the board in coming months ahead.
Thank you.
So I'll say, first of all, there was no arm twisting involved. This is completely voluntary, and I did express an interest in this committee when we first talked about it. And I felt, as I thought on the last, the meeting and the appointments, I felt like it's important for our committees to have the two people on it if possible. And I do feel I can serve in this way.
Thank you.
Any community comment on this item?
I'll just say real quick, thank you for stepping up. It'll be helpful to have another set of eyes and ears in the committee. So I appreciate you taking the appointments.
Me too. Jamie, anything online? I don't see anything.
No, there are no hands raised.
Please call the roll.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessup Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoig, Ms. Hammerl Rowland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
And that item passes. Next up under board governance is action to approve graduation candidates. Mr. Meyer.
It is recommended that the school board approve the attached lists of graduates from East and West high schools with the understanding that students will complete all high school graduation requirements, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
I have a feeling that. Give that to Dr. Wood. It sounded like a perfect echo. Any board comment or questions on this one? Congratulations to all the graduates, their families and support systems who help them navigate maybe up to 14 years in the Wauwatosa School District. So it's an exciting moment. We'll be at the graduation, several of us, Friday and Saturday in a few weeks. I look forward to congratulating and celebrating with the graduates. Any community comment on this item? Seeing none in the room or online, please call the roll.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessup Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoig, Ms. Hammerl Rowland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
And that item passes. Next up, number 6, strategic goal 6, operations. Action to approve a resolution authorizing transfer of funds.
It is recommended that the school board approve a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds, the establishment of an escrow account with respect to, and the defeasance of certain of the principal and interest on the general obligation school building and improvement bonds, Series 2019A, dated March 6th, 2019, and certain of the principal and interest on the general obligation school building and improvement bonds, Series 2019B, dated March 6th, 2019, and I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Wills. Mr. Brightman, welcome.
Yeah, as I mentioned last time, this is a fancy way, a legal way to say we're going to put money into escrow to pay our debt service payment. And the reason we do that is not to help our district budget bottom line, but to help taxpayers. It optimizes how we fit in the state aid formula. If we can double up our expenditures this year and then not have any next year, kind of resets the bar within that formula. So this is something we'll do every 2 years with our current debt structure, as long as it continues to optimize how we fit within that aid structure.
Great, thank you. Any more questions or comments on this? Any community comment? Nothing in the room. Anything online?
No, no hands raised.
Great. Please call the roll.
Dr. Worley,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessup Banger,
Yes.
Dr. Hoig, Ms. Hammerl Rowland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
And that item passes. Next up is our monthly financial report for April 2023.
Yeah, there's nothing like a defeasance and a financial report to clear a room, right? But tonight we have the April 30th, 2023 month-end financial report that represents us being 3/4 of the way through our fiscal year at the end of that month. On pages 2 and 3, you see the interim balance sheet as of April 30th. Nothing to report there out of what's expected. On page 6, we see the main cash receipts and disbursements. You'll see that we received just over 6.2 million in property taxes from the city. That's kind of a significant month for us. And this is one of the rare months where our cash position really doesn't change over the month. We started with about $58 million and ended with $57.8 million. So pretty status quo from that standpoint. Then on page 7, we have all the vendor payments over $20,000. One of the payments is for a replacement truck for our facilities team that was ordered almost 2 years ago. We just received that truck through the supply chain and that type of thing. So just a delayed reaction there. I do want to point out the total on that page is not correct. That total doesn't mean anything. It doesn't feed any other areas of the report. It was feeding from some other areas of the table. The true total is about $4.6 million of expenditures that are $20,000 or greater. I just wanted to point that out, but everything else on the report is accurate as we would like to report out.
Board comments or questions? Thank you, Mr. Brightman. We have come to the close of a very momentous board meeting. Any final public comment on non-agenda items? Jamie, anything online?
No, there are no hands raised.
I want to thank everybody. Pretty quick work tonight. A really big evening in terms of compensating teachers, about thinking about who we want to be. And I know the board members were discussing that. The board will be convening Thursday for some additional conversation in the service. And Dr. Needs.
I would just say thank you as well, but the time period that was spent on this meeting this evening is not reflective of the really hard work that you put in the first meeting on May 8th. You asked really tough questions. You asked us to sharpen and answer questions for you either that night or off the off week where you continued to ask questions. So I just want to state for the community's sake, there was a lot of work that took place May 9th to earlier today where there were continued questions happening. And that's part of being a board member where people may not see all of that work. But the efficiency of tonight started on May 8th and your deep questions. And I think it's gratifying to us as an administrative team that we'll continue to do our due diligence to get you all the information you need so you can make the difficult decisions on behalf of our children. So thank you.
With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Dr. Whirling,
Yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Mr. Meyer,
Yes.
Dr. Jessa Banger,
Yes,
Dr. Hoyt, Ms. Hammer Rowland,
Yes.
Ms. Willis.
Yes.
we are adjourned at 7:35.